Hi everyone. Hopefully it comes through enough because there is a lot of noise here. I woke up and went to the Old Quarter and decided to have breakfast at a bar that I like, which turns out they serve breakfast, a good Western breakfast, for a fair price, and so I've been coming here on the weekends. It's the Saturday before Christmas, kind of awkward that Christmas falls on a Monday, and actually this is the first Christmas in my entire life when I've had to work. Having lived in other countries that don't celebrate the holiday, I've still somehow always managed to get this day off. And it was odd, like working at a seminary or in other places where I've always gotten Buddha's birthday off. So we'll see if I get Buddha's birthday off or if I will be working that as well. Anyway, I just wanted to go over some tweets and just talk about news while I'm here. So it is the Christmas season again, and I know that the young people in my life are very excited. And many of them like this TV show, Paw Patrol, which is a cartoon show of different animals serving as firefighters and police and so on. I remember watching that with my nephew Andrew back in Illinois, as well as Thomas the Train. You know, classic Thomas the Train. The show that once had the voicing of Ringo Starr, none other than Ringo Starr. But at CNN has just accused them of being fascist, and I did not even bother with reading the article because I thought it just sounded so ridiculous. Nobody takes CNN seriously anymore, and this year has been quite bad for them. They've turned into just a mockery of what they used to be. But at the same time, legacy media is still clinging on. But seeing headlines like this, you know, you almost just click on them for shock value, only to find out that they're threading out some weak, pointless little argument about how traditional symbols of society, of our culture, whether it's firefighters or anything else, are actually representative of some kind of fascist state. When even among the dogs, I remember they were quite diverse. There were different colors and species, and even in predominantly male profession of firefighting, I believe there were female characters working with the dogs. So I'm not sure what that was all about. And I didn't bother clicking, and you can if you want, but you will be wasting your time. I've been having fun on Twitter. I was able to catch one of Tree of Logic's tweets right away, and I left her the first comment because she said that it was something about not liking the alt-right and distancing yourself from it and all that. And of course, the first thing that popped into my head was the fact that she interviewed Jared Taylor, who's considered one of the main figures of the alt-right. And I asked her if she was finally sick of that bullshit, and she said to me, well, you have to trust me here, it's all about the Jewish question, and Jared Taylor isn't racist even though he is alt-right. And I was surprised by that. I find it funny that now the alt-right is making divisions within itself. Is it just everyone against Richard Spencer? And does what Richard Spencer believe in, does that represent anyone's genuine beliefs? Is it really what people are actually thinking who are part of this movement? And how many people are in it? How many of them are just cosplaying? I mean, I do remember seeing Richard Spencer on David Pakman's show, and David asked him, oh, do you renounce Hitler? Do you renounce the Nazis? And he said he refused to answer it in that creepy way of his. So, of course, I mean, it's not a stretch to call him a Nazi. I still don't think he should be punched, but now the alt-right, what we know is the alt-right is making divisions within itself, not just the alt-light, where you had Lawrence Southern. And so it's confusing being part of this. But as Gavin McGinnis says, you know, the right wing is a very large tent. Anyway, it was great to have her respond to me directly, and it was kind of like talking to a celebrity. These are the celebrities in my life. People like Tree of Logic and Stefan Molyneux and Styx Hexenhammer and all these others. Which brings me to, I did start watching part of the 8-hour Stefan Molyneux special. I skipped straight ahead to see Styx, and it was hilarious because Stefan was wearing the open leather jacket and doing spoon clanks as he was interviewing him, and it was just a fun spirit, and it was kind of great to hear Styx really again on camera renounce his Satanism and talk about how much he liked traditions and all that, and it's amazing. I can almost picture a Christian Styx in the future. Not that it matters, but it's just good to know that there is more spirituality and a blossoming of faith of all different kinds happening in the right wing right now, and in the skeptic community. I think of how I got drawn into YouTube very much by Bible Reloaded and T.J. Kirk and all these other people that I still watch, but it was from a skeptic atheist viewpoint, and how that's kind of horseshoed me back into deeper mysticism and talks of religious beliefs. It's a long special, so I'm going to be parsing through that over the weekend, even though, again, I do have to get back to work on Monday. Andrew Clavin tweeted out that Kasich just signed a law into Ohio saying that babies diagnosed with Down syndrome cannot be aborted. The penalty would not be against the mother, but it would be against the doctor performing the operation. Which, the first question that popped into my head was, well, then how does this apply to all children? Because from what I understand, abortion is legal in Ohio law. Does this create a protected class of unborn children, those that have been diagnosed with Down syndrome? Will this prevent doctors from diagnosing Down syndrome at the fetal stage or whatever? I'm not exactly sure how the science works or the ethics. However, I am happy to hear this happening, and I happen to be very pro-life myself. And even when I was on the left, I would have considered myself pro-life, both from my older brother's viewpoint, who's been very vocal about being pro-life his whole life, and just from a natural inclination, thinking that anyone mature enough, responsible enough to be able to give consent should understand the consequences of sex. And that given the number of options, there's really no excuse just to say it was an accident or we weren't expecting it. I mean, in the end, it just comes down to an impulse. In the end, there's always the choice of just saying no completely, which is a bit less extreme than introducing a new life. Now, I don't have children, but there have been situations where I thought that there was one instance I can remember where I thought I might have been a father, and she was late, and I thought, well, what would happen if she was in fact pregnant? And I was thinking about this, and I realized that even at that point in my life, I was quite young and I didn't have much money. I thought, well, I would drop everything and be with her, for the very plain fact that I understood exactly what was going on. I understood that as a consequence to what I was doing. And it's like Gavin McGinnis said, what is unprotected sex? I mean, how much better does it feel? Is it 10% better? I mean, it feels good to shit your pants too. Tagging on that, I saw another abortion-related tweet. Grant Strobel, in a Throwback Thursday, was quoting Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan said that he noticed that everyone who is for abortion has been born. And I think that's interesting to consider. If we remove the element of time, if we were all to make decisions as our fetus selves, if looking back we could do that, just like a thought experiment where you think, as an adult, how would I make things to go back? If I could go back in time and be a kid again, how would I do things differently? But if we take that thought experiment all the way to the unborn, where does that bring us? Even before I became a conservative, I had this viewpoint on abortion, but I still don't think that the mother should ever be punished, or a woman should be punished for ever having this procedure. And that's what stands out to me in the Ohio law, and that's what I like about it, is that the punishment is for the doctor, which is how it should be. And one thing they caught Trump on, they asked him, should there be penalties for the mother? And he wasn't sure how, or for the woman making the decision, for the pregnant woman. And he didn't know how to answer it, and he just said, well, there should be punishments on all sides. And it just became one of those controversial things that he said, which was really just something stupid that he said. And he walked it back. And of course, when he said it, everyone said, oh, this is the end, this is the end. But when you say outrageous stuff all the time, it's amazing how people don't even listen. You hear that, Hillary? You knew that to begin with. You knew that in your book when you got in your book, and you said, well, the people just don't want to hear policy, they just want scandal. And the American public is dumb, and people who didn't vote for you were just idiots, right? I always get off topic when I think of Hillary, it just makes me sick, Finally, how are we, 10 minutes? Okay, so finally, there was an interesting crime story off the Goldwater shared by Red Pill, and this is out of Houston, Texas. And this woman, Erica Gisela Miranda Alvarez, had a miscarriage. And so she didn't want her boyfriend to find out that she miscarried the baby, so she made like she was still pregnant and then plotted to kidnap another woman's child. And so it came to be that she found Carolina Flores, 33-year-old new mother, and got into her apartment and stabbed her to death, and then took her child. It gets worse. When the Amber Alert came out, they said that the child's father was involved. So this just happened just a few days ago. It's really horrible to think about stuff like this. But that's the reality of the world we live in. And like Jordan Peterson was saying on Stefan's show, the tree of life and the tree of death are represented in the same way. The Christmas tree, the pagan tree, it all goes back to this idea that here we are, mud, trying to reach the heavens. Here we are, trying to overcome ourselves. And we still got a long way to go. And it's good to keep that in mind as we make plans for the coming year. Anyway, I'm going to be recording lots of content over the weekend, so you'll hear from me again soon.